I'm just a face in the crowd. Who I am doesn't really matter. I could be anyone you know. Your daughter. Your friend. A girl in the youth group. Or even a girl in this room. This is the story of how I allowed Satan to destroy my life. And more importantly, how God resurrected it from nothing. I praise Him for what He has done. And I'm here today to share my story with you so that just maybe you can avoid the path I took and turn to God before sin pursues everything. James 1:14 and 15 says, "But each one is tempted when he is drawn away and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, brings forth death, sin. And sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death." Looking back, I realized my world was ready to fall apart. I had built my life upon my relationship with my boyfriend. He was so sweet. We would talk to all hours of the night. We would spend every waking moment together, telling each other how deeply in love we were and how we would always be there for one another. My boyfriend was so nice. He would always take me on dates and send me flowers. We would talk all the time, planning our future together and imagining how great it would all be. It was the beginning of my senior year when my world started to fall apart. My boyfriend had gone away to college, and I missed him desperately. In the few months he had been gone, he hadn't called much. I assumed he was just busy with schoolwork, but I knew there had to be more. When I saw him, he said the one thing I expected the least. He told me he wanted to break up, and that was that. I was shocked. Pain I had never felt before began to well up inside of me. I could feel my head start to spin, and I couldn't think straight. All the worries and fears I had pushed aside came rushing like a flood to my mind. Feelings of worthlessness and insecurity took hold of me like never before, and I couldn't shake them. The emotions I had were so strong, they even affected me physically. I kept waiting for it to pass. I wanted to get over him and get on with my life, but I just couldn't. It seemed as if every day I was forced to relive in crushing agony the moments we spent together. Then one night, it all came to a head. My swirling emotion and crippling depression needed an outlet, and I had nowhere to turn. I grabbed a pair of scissors, my hands shaking. I felt like I was going to jump out of my skin. I felt the blade down the side of my arm and pain seared through my body. I grit my teeth on back to scream as tears went down. In that moment, the physical pain I felt seemed to calm and release the inner turmoil of my soul. And for a second, I didn't have to think about my boyfriend. I didn't have to think about the pain. And I didn't have to think about all that was wrong with my life. Finally, I had control again. I was overjoyed. I believed I had finally discovered an escape from my suffering. But it wasn't long before the pain came screaming back, and the voice in my head began to shout out my worthlessness. Once again, physical pain was my only outlet. It wasn't long before hurting myself became the only way I could function. I began isolating myself, pushing away my family and friends, relying solely on my new habit. It was then that the feeling of loneliness took hold of me, and the depression I had quickly turned to hopelessness. I felt I had only one option. So I wrote this letter. Dear Mom and Dad, since Jack broke up with me, I have been consumed with depression. It hurts to pretend that I'm okay. But the truth is, I am consumed with pain, and I can't bear it any longer. I feel like there's only one way out, so I'm sorry. I was so exhausted, I couldn't do it that night. The next day was youth group, and I was so emotional, I ran to the bathroom. I didn't think anyone could hear me, but God heard me, and He sent me Julie. Julie had just graduated from college and was back in the church helping with our youth group. She heard me crying in the bathroom and asked what was wrong. That night, I told her everything. This is what happened in the last 6 months. I needed to believe that the person I needed most in my life was God. I did what God described in Hosea 7:14 through 16. They do not cry out to me with their hearts, but wail upon their beds. They do not turn to the Most High. Instead of turning to God, who loves me and wanted to help me, I turned to myself and to cutting. Julie explained that I needed to confess my rebellion and pride for trying to live without Him and trying to solve my problems without His help. Secondly, I needed to understand that the standards and values that were foundational in my life were not God. Julie explained that even though these values may have felt right or seemed right, it was only because they were sinful, and I am sinful. Honestly, I just wanted to continue in my sin and not have to worry about pleasing God. Julie explained this so vividly for me when she brought up Matthew 16:24, when Jesus says, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." Instead of daily denying myself and seeking after God, I was daily denying God and seeking after myself. This thinking was so deep inside of me that I couldn't even see that suicide was the most selfish thing I could do. I'm sure that there are people here who are facing the same kind of pain that I did. I beg you to listen to the voice of God and run to Him. Maybe there is someone here who is struggling with cutting. Will you confess your sin and seek godly counsel? There are leaders, friends, and people in your church who want to help you. Finally, for all of us in this room, the person sitting next to you could be deep in sin. Will you be attentive to them? Will you ask them the questions that are hard to ask so that they can get their relationship right with God? Let's pray. Dear God, I pray for all of those that are in sin, Lord, and that they will confess it to you. And I pray for all of us in this room that we will be attentive to those and help them with their relationship with you. Amen.